Optimism, the third PROPEL principle. This one is crucial because it's what to do when you've had a setback. You know how it goes, 2 steps forward, 1 back.
Right.
But the trick is hold it at 1 back. Otherwise, you're back to ground zero. It's like 2 forward, you're going to get there. But what do you do to bounce back when you've had that setback? What happens to you when you have something go awry?
You know, I'd like to say that I rise above it, but that doesn't often happen. And I guess it's kind of that old saying, things come in threes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, you have a tough patient or a tough family or a situation that is challenging, and then it's usually followed by several more. And I do often kind of feel like I lose my best self on days like that.
Yeah, because our mind shifts to that focus on the negative. And optimism is all about how do I shift my mindset to seeing possibilities for turning things around, for improving the situation, and being able to eventually get to the ultimate outcome that I want to achieve.
I like that.
So
I need to work on that.
Well, we all need to work on that because our brains are hardwired to go into fight, flight, freeze mode when something goes wrong.
Okay.
You know that people get angry, or they withdraw, or they just like, anxiety overwhelms them. Not that you or I have ever had that happen. It happens to all of us, so it's perfectly normal. But you can shorten the amount of time that you're in that mode by knowing how to manage your mind.
Okay.
All right? So that's what you're going to learn in these series of exercises. Are you ready to do the first one?
Absolutely.
All right. So the first exercise is just to make it real, to think of a current challenge where maybe you're a little stuck, maybe you've had a little setback. Seems like there's always something going on in our lives where, we get trapped into that place. So I'd like you to write down what's the current challenge that I'd like to turn my head around on. Okay?
Okay.
Go. Jen, what was the challenge that you thought of?
So I thought about my new job and my current situation and being brand new and feeling kind of not very competent when it comes to certain disease states and processes, and really unaware of my surroundings and overwhelmed.
You're new people, new patients, new level of challenge. Yes, of course, and this is exactly where pessimism can kick in. So, what do you think it is that's keeping you stuck in struggling with this issue?
Well, if I go kind of back to my values a little bit too, I don't necessarily, I may not be being pessimistic, but I'm definitely not using my values, and I'm definitely not being optimistic. So I'm kind of just in this weird, what do I do? And then I bet you that pessimistic voice is probably there a little bit more than I would want it to be.
Well, it's a little hard because you don't have that community yet. You're just new. It's a little hard to put things into practice right now. So you have to do it in your head first. You have to create the optimistic mindset first.
Okay.
All right? So to help you identify what your current level of thinking is, I'd like you to take exercise 2 to identify what are my thought patterns. When you've gone through that exercise, we'll talk about how to score it.
Great.
All right? Go. So you answered the 14 questions in
Yes.
exercise 2. Now we're going to do the scoring, which gets just a little bit tricky. So as you went through, you answered 1 to 5.
Yes.
But when you score it, certain questions are going to be what we call reverse scored. So certain questions that you put a 5, you're only going to count 1.
Okay.
4, you're going to count 2.
Okay.
3 is a 3, 2 is actually a 4, and 1 is actually a 5.
Okay.
So now this is all laid out for you in the toolkit. In fact, as you go through each question, you'll see a series of boxes. It says question 1. If it's got an asterisk, as question 1 does, that's a reverse score. So
Okay.
if you'd actually answered 2, you're going to count it as a 4.
Got it.
Got it? All right, go. Jen, what was your overall score?
So my overall score was 38.
Okay, so you're in that middle zone, which means you're not always pessimistic or optimistic, but think of it as a continuum where you could get better at optimistic thinking. Let me
That'd be
explain what
great.
that means. Yeah, when we get pessimistic, we make our problems permanent, pervasive, it's going to mess up everything, and personal. We either take it personally or we blame other people. Optimists do just the opposite. They always explain problems as it's just a situation, it's not personal, it's just I got to change the situation. And it's specific, it's just this one part of my life. And it is definitely temporary. There's a solution. I am going to figure this out. Right? So being able to more consistently make that mindset shift is going to enable you to be more optimistic, which will give you hope. When you've had that setback and you're not so sure, well, am I going to pick myself up? How do you do the mindset shift?
So recognizing that whatever the setback is temporary, it's not personal, and it's situational.
That's right. That's right. And so now I need to think about how do I change the situation? Excellent. All right, let's move into each of those 3 dimensions.
Okay.
That's what the next exercise, Optimism Exercise 3, is designed to really teach you a little bit about how do I do that? How do I make that mindset shift? Ready to do that next piece?
Ready.
Go. To complete Optimism Exercise number 3, we're going to have you take the questions that you answered in Exercise 2 and break them into 3 different groups: permanent, pervasive, personal. So in permanence, you're going to look at questions 3, 4, 9, and 11. You'll see that in your toolkit. Don't forget to reverse score questions 3 and 9. So take the total of your scoring for those 4 questions. That's going to give you your permanent score. Then move on to pervasiveness. There's 5 questions that score for pervasiveness: 2, 5, 6, 7, and 13. Total those, and that'll give you your pervasiveness score. And finally, personalization. Questions 1, 8, 10, 12, and 14, as you see in your toolkit. Total your scores there, and that will give you the extent to which you personalize problems. So Jen, how did you score on these 3 dimensions of permanent, pervasive, and personal?
So I scored around the same for all of them. Permanence was 12, pervasiveness was 14, and personalization was also 12.
Okay. What do you think about those?
So the lower the score, the more pessimistic. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I guess I'm kind of in the middle range.
Exactly.
But what does the pervasiveness, I mean, I understand that means that my pessimism may
Well, let me tell you what it means. So
Great.
sometimes we trip ourselves up in one area,
Okay.
and then we start to imagine, oh, well, that didn't work. Well, now this isn't going to work, and then people are going to think that about me, and oh my God, I'm going to fail. I'm never going to succeed ever at anything.
Okay.
That's pervasiveness. It's when we start to imagine that our one little setback in one area is going to mess up everything in our life. Right? That's pessimistic thinking, right? So that one was actually one of your higher ones. The other two were about the same, I think, permanence and personalization. So to change this around, what do you think you need to do in terms of how you explain to yourself, like go back to your PROPEL goal, how to be more optimistic in explaining the challenges that you face achieving that goal?
Okay, so if I am feeling self-conscious or not as competent as I would like to, I need to make sure that I'm telling myself that I'm new, that I'm learning, that this is temporary, that I have the qualities to succeed, and I'm just learning how to do it right now.
Yeah, that's nice. It's new. It's a new situation. It's temporary because I'm not going to be new forever, right? And what is permanent are my good qualities. See, that's what optimists do. They say, oh, there are some things permanent. They're all the good things about me. My values, my skills. Yes. So, yeah, wonderful job. All right. Are you ready to write that down? Rewrite your explanation for the challenges you face in achieving your goal?
Yes.
Ready? Go. So you've rewritten your explanation about how to deal with challenges. Let's put it through that WHOOP filter.
Okay.
So you know how you want to think. What is that?
So I want to think positively and remind myself that new events are just that. They're just new and opportunities to learn.
Yes.
And that I still have my core values and my strengths to help me get through difficult times.
That's right. That's right. And the benefit of turning towards your values, your strengths, how's that going to help you?
It's going to help me frame optimistic thoughts versus pessimistic
Yeah,
thoughts.
be hopeful that I can get past this challenge. Exactly. But you've got that voice, I can do it. Yes, but we know from WHOOP, you've also got that other voice, the gremlin that's going to say what?
You can't do this.
Right.
Discrediting the positive and giving too much weight to the negative.
That's right. So what exactly does your negative voice say when you've had that challenge, that setback? What is the voice saying inside of you?
That was silly. Why did you do that? This is going to affect so many areas of your life. You really messed it up.
So when you hear that gremlin, it's going to start blaming you.
Yeah.
Silly, you messed up. It's going to mess up everything. Right. You know that voice. Well, we all know that voice, actually. All right. If that voice presents itself, then what's the other voice that you could plug into?
So if I start to feel really pessimistic, then I'm going to plug into the fact that what I'm feeling is situational. It's not permanent. It's not personal. And back to my values.
You have to be careful with the word not.
Okay.
If you say not this, not permanent, it's like Do not think of a pink polar bear.
Pink polar bear.
Oh,
I thought
right.
of a pink polar bear.
That's right. See, so your brain actually doesn't hear the word not.
Okay.
So when you're reprogramming, you have to be sure that you're using affirming words that you can picture the positive. So let's try that again.
Okay.
If
I'm being overwhelmed by negative thoughts of failure, then I'm going to say this is temporary. This is fleeting. This is situational, and I have lots of strengths and positive core values that I can go back to that will help me overcome the situation.
right, to change the situation.
Okay.
Right. That's exactly what you want to keep coming back to. Okay, I've got these values. They're going to guide me in terms of knowing how do I want to change this situation. So let's try that one more time. If you hear that gremlin, you messed up. Then what will you say?
Then I'll say there's something you can do about this. Use your strengths, use your core values. This is temporary.
There's something
How
I
can
can
we
do
turn it
something I can do to turn this situation around. Excellent. That's exactly right. Okay, so you can tell this can be hard to do. This
Yeah.
one definitely takes practice. When, how are you going to practice more optimistic thinking?
Well, looking at the deliberate practice exercise, I really liked that there would be a time every day where I thought about it.
When's that time for you?
I think it might be coming home from work after the day's over, and replaying some of the day's events and maybe just checking into how I feel. And if I'm feeling pessimistic, practice saying...
You know you're stuck. If you've got the bad feelings, you know you're stuck. And you're going to practice saying what?
Optimistic things.
Well, yes. And what does that sound like?
So it's going to say, you can do something about this. Bring your values and your core strengths. This is just temporary. And this is what I can do to fix it.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Nicely done.
Okay.